So what if the biggest risk from AI isn't that it's going to take our jobs, but that it's quietly teaching us to stop thinking? Today we're going to dig into a brand new kind of accountability gap that's opening up right under our noses, a phenomenon we're calling plausible defensibility.
Okay, I want to start with a number that should really make you sit up and pay attention. 47%. That is a massive slice of the pie, no matter how you look at it. But what does it actually represent?
Well, that is the percentage of enterprise AI users who, according to a recent Deloitte survey, admit to making at least one major business decision based on information that was completely made up by AI. Yeah, we're talking about AI hallucinations driving real-world strategy. This isn't some future problem, folks. It is happening right now.
And here's the real kicker, the part that's truly wild. It's not just that these AI models get things wrong, they do it with this unnerving conviction. Research from MIT found that when these models are hallucinating, when they're just making stuff up, their language is actually 34% more confident than when they're giving you facts. So the technology is most sure of itself at the exact moment it's leading you completely astray.
So what is going on here, right? This isn't just about bad data. This is about a new behavioral pattern, a new kind of accountability gap that we absolutely have to name so that we can start to fight it.
And we're calling it plausible defensibility. Here's what it is. It's the act of using AI-generated data, maybe even having a little suspicion that it's not perfect, but you push forward anyway. And why? Because you can turn around and say, hey, I use the best tool on the market. If the data is wrong, it's the tool's fault, not yours. It's this subtle but honestly profound way to just pass the buck to the machine.
Now, this is really different from a term you probably already know, plausible deniability. That's all about saying, I had no idea that decision was even being made. Plausible defensibility is something else entirely. Here, you totally own the decision, you just don't own the quality of the data it was based on. You're effectively outsourcing the responsibility for being accurate to the technology itself.
Okay, so why is this so seductive? Why are we so ready to fall into this trap? Well, it turns out our own brains are basically primed for it. The psychology of trust is kind of working against us here.
It all comes down to this really well-studied thing called automation bias. For decades, researchers have seen that we humans are just hardwired to over-rely on automated systems. And this effect gets even stronger when we're stressed, or under a deadline, or if we're less experienced. We see a clean, confident output, and our brain just mistakes that lack of uncertainty for actual reliability.
And that's because AI communicates in a way our brain just completely misinterprets. It doesn't hedge. It doesn't have filler words like, or well, I think. It just presents information, perfectly formatted and absolute. You know, our brains evolved over millennia to see confidence as a sign of competence, and AI exploits that evolutionary shortcut perfectly.
You know, this whole pattern of outsourcing our critical thinking to some trusted system, it might feel new, but we have absolutely been here before. And to really understand the stakes, we need to look back at a moment of global crisis, the 2008 financial collapse.
This quote, which describes the lead up to that crash, just captures the mood perfectly. It was an erosion of standards, a willful suspension of skepticism. People stopped asking the hard questions because they wanted to believe the system worked, and the intermediaries they trusted told them that it did.
The parallel here is, well, it's striking. In 2008, the trusted intermediary was the credit rating agency. Today, it's the AI platform. Back then, the authoritative output was a AAA rating on a super risky asset. Today, it's confident-looking data that comes out of a black box. In both cases, the user can just point to that intermediary and say, hey, they said it was good. The result back then was systemic financial risk. The result today could be systemic decision risk, right across our entire economy.
Now, this risk isn't happening in a vacuum. It's actually colliding head-on with another massive trend that's happening inside our companies, this huge move towards despecialization.
Let's be real. A tool is not the same as a skill. Giving someone a scalpel doesn't make them a surgeon. And giving someone a powerful AI analytics platform doesn't magically turn them into an expert data analyst who knows about methodology and sourcing and which questions to even ask in the first place.
So this is the collision we're seeing. On one side, companies are getting rid of their data specialists and analysts to try and create leaner teams. And on the other side, they're rolling out these super powerful, user-friendly AI tools to everyone. The dangerous result? A massive and growing accountability gap.
And this creates something we're calling a judgment gap. The AI tool, it successfully closes the production gap. It makes it super easy for anyone to create a report that looks totally professional. But it does absolutely nothing to close the judgment gap.
That's the actual expertise you need to know if that report is accurate or if it's total nonsense. We're systematically removing the human quality control layer.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty dire, but the good news is that this future isn't inevitable. We are still in the very early days of this transformation, which means we have a critical window to build the right habits and the right safeguards starting right now.
So here are 6 concrete steps we can all take. First, embed verification right into the workflow. Checking sources shouldn't be an optional chore, it's got to be a required step. Second, we all need to develop our AI literacy. It's not just about using the tool, it's about understanding its limits. Third, protect your specialists. Their expert judgment is more valuable than ever in a world of AI-generated noise. Fourth, demand human accountability. We have to make it clear that the AI told me so is never an acceptable excuse for a bad decision. Fifth, push for vendor transparency. Demand to see the data sources and the confidence scores behind the answers. And finally, the big one, number 6, shift the culture to reward accuracy, not just speed.
So this brings us to the final, crucial question that we all have to start asking ourselves. As we use these powerful new tools, are the choices we're making truly data-driven? Or are we just decorating our gut feelings with data that looks good without ever checking if it's real? The difference between those two things, well, that's going to define the future of work.